What's going on, FA Nation? My name is Justin Fensterman, along with Howard Bender, and this is Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk. As we do every single Wednesday, time to go over Howard Bender's watch list as we're getting you ready for the Week 11 DFS main slate. What's going on, Howard? You ready to sing one?
Absolutely, man. Listen, I just did another round of updates for the DFS watch list, so that's updated as of right now here on Wednesday. Very interesting stack I ended up throwing into the watch list that I kind of feel like a lot of people are going to be off of. I mean, the question, here's the funny part about being the analyst here. Do you give away a play that you think a lot of people aren't going to be on? Do you put more people on it? Well, for FA Nation, yeah, that's what I do. So we'll go through it as we talk different games, different positions. I'm curious to see as to whether or not you're going to bring it up in your line of questioning, and let's see if it does stay under the radar.
Can I take one shot at it right now?
By all means.
This is a disgusting stack. Cam Newton, Damian Harris.
No, actually, that's not even a disgusting stack. I actually really like this matchup here against Houston. I've actually, in the watch list is Cam Newton, and I do have Damian Harris. I'll probably at some point add in Jacoby Myers. Listen, the team's on a bit of a roll. Listen, who doesn't love being going up against the Jets for their slump buster? And then all of a sudden they turn around and they wax the Ravens. In a sloppy game, yes, but they still come away with a big upset according to, well, everybody. So, listen, against Houston, who has no run defense, Cam's going to run a couple in there. Damian Harris will probably rack up some decent yardage as well. He could probably get into the end zone. I don't hate the Patriots stack at all. Damian Harris is even the cover boy of the watch list, and I'm really surprised that John and Pemba hasn't even said anything about that.
No, because John and Pemba's having some quiet time right now. That's why. But here's the thing, and here's why I wanted to bring this up, and that's because we all know what Cam Newton's deal is by now. We also know that Damian Harris is not utilized in the passing game. So when you're investing in Cam Newton, you're essentially hedging your bets because Cam Newton's going to run, likely vulturing a touchdown. But the thing with Damian Harris is you really need him. When he's standalone, you really need him to rush for 90 to 100 yards in order for him to make any kind of positive production. Now with Cam Newton there, I feel like that's almost like hedging your bets.
It is. You're keeping yourself basically covered on the ground touchdowns, But against Houston, I think Damian Harris is very capable of rushing for 90 to 100 yards as long as he's getting the touches. Now, obviously, everybody runs on Houston, and the question is Bill Belichick just going to follow suit, or is he going to try a little bit of, zagging when everybody thinks that he's going to zig? So that should be an interesting way to check it out. But again, against Houston, I do not love. I don't hate Cam Newton as a cash game quarterback.
No, and I was actually asking Adam Ronis as a spot start too, as we always try to sift through the waiver wire. But there's a matchup here that I love very much, and you clearly love it. Maybe not give everything for free, but Falcons, Saints, you gotta love it. 50.5 point total on that from Vegas. You want some exposure in this matchup. And then, who's that the quarterback spot? Jameis Winston. People have been asking, naturally, no Drew Brees. What's going to happen? Michael Thomas has been struggling. What are we going to do? Alvin Kamara, is he not going to get as many passes? Here's the thing. I don't think it's that as much of a downgrade with Jameis Winston. I think he's going to be throwing a lot, and that makes me a bit more confident, especially on DraftKings, 7,300 for Michael Thomas. I got my eye on that. Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I'm not as bullish on the situation as you are. When it was Bruce Arians with his risk it for the biscuit mentality and take all these downfield shots and force feed Mike Evans and force feed Chris Godwin and make that happen, Sean Payton runs a much different game. Sean Payton's not going to tolerate the big turnovers. He's not going to tolerate a 3-interception game. That's just his style. When he's used to a guy like Drew Brees, who's thrown 3 interceptions all year right now, Peyton's not going to be as forgiving, I think, with that happening. Now, I mean, listen, I don't think he's going to bench Jameis Winston, but do we see possibly more Taysom Hill? It is possible. So what I think we're going to end up seeing is that, yeah, we'll see a couple of deep shots taken downfield because you kind of have to do that. But I think that in order to minimize the number of turnovers, you got to shorten up that passing game a little bit. Not to mention the fact, when was the last time Jameis Winston played with a running back like Alvin Kamara? So short passes to him, the dump offs to him, as well as running the ball a lot more. I just don't see the Saints turning around and like, okay, Jameis Winston's here. We're going to start slinging the rock 40 to 50 times a game. Drew Brees had what, 2 games over 40 attempts this season, and even those 2 games, they didn't want him to throw as often.
Now, in this matchup, though, I noticed in the watch list, you have someone who put a big fat 0 up a week ago, and he's very, very cheap. Big price difference, actually, 6,100 and 4,100. 4,100 on DraftKings. That's Jared Cook. Intriguing because recency bias runs rampant when it comes to fantasy football in our industry from the players themselves that play the sport. So with that, what is your philosophy, or what is rather your belief in Jared Cook going into this matchup? Because he was in the watch list.
Yeah, so is Hayden Hurst. I mean, you got to love the tight ends in this game. Saints are terrible against, covering the tight end, so that's why I like Hurst. Falcons are the worst team. I think they're like, both in the top 5. I think the Falcons give up the most fantasy points per game to the tight end position. Saints like second or third most, the way that is. Falcons ranked dead last, I think, in DVOA against the tight end. So, yeah, I think that when you're looking at this game, if you're, if you're looking to like stack for a GPP and you want to go with like Jameis Winston, Kamara, you could pay down and go Jared Cook instead of Michael Thomas. I think both tight ends here definitely in play. If we're looking at the Atlanta side, Matt Ryan, and then you stack them up with Julio Jones and Hayden Hurst, as opposed to worrying about Todd Gurley or even being concerned as to whether or not Calvin Ridley's going to make it back.
Yeah, that's something I actually am concerned about. But I mean, with Julio, I like it, especially with Matt Ryan too. That is a stack that's helped me in the past too, when both have been on the field, meaning Julio. Let's talk about another game that you have a lot of exposure to, and that is the Steelers and the Jaguars. 10-point spread for Pittsburgh right now, 46.5 total here. Now, here's my question to you. James Conner, I mean, at what point does this guy put it back on the map? This is the perfect matchup to do so. But Ben Roethlisberger, is he going to throw 5,000 times again, even in this matchup, you think?
No, I don't think he's going to throw as heavily. I feel like Mike Tomlin has been mixing it up a little bit. And, I think one of the big things that happened last week was because Big Ben missed practice all throughout the week because he was on the reserve COVID list due to contact tracing and the knee issue that he had. I think a lot of people were expecting last week for them to come out full speed with James Conner because it was such a nice matchup for Conner as well. So I think that they kind of wanted to take just take everybody off guard, have Big Ben start slinging the rock. He does have 3 wide receivers right now who, Adam Ronis and I were talking on the Ante Up podcast. We were talking about the fact that, where was he going to rank these 3 wide receivers? They're in a smash spot against the Jaguars, and all 3 of them are producing right now like wide receiver 2s. So, I think that this is one of those cases where I'm not going to bank on a huge game out of James Conner, but I think it'll be stable enough, especially with Anthony McFarland still banged up.
Other players from this matchup that you like, one of them is your baby Shark himself, DJ Chark. So what are your expectations for Chark in this matchup, especially on DraftKings, 5,700, 6,200 on FanDuel?
I kind of figure that the Steelers are going to jump out to a lead here, and that the Jags are going to need to play catch up. They'll try running with James Robinson early. It's a tough defense against the Steelers, for the run. So I think they'll play from behind. Jake Luton, however we want to pronounce his name, he'll take his shots downfield. Joe Hayden's going to do a majority of coverage over on DJ Chark, and let's face it, Joe Hayden's kind of lost a step as far as speed goes. Chark's got the ability to get behind him. Chark also has a fantastic vertical game as well. So I look to Chark as being that lone spotlight, item in the passing attack here for the Jaguars. So if you're stacking Steelers, I don't necessarily know. I'm not saying that I would use DJ Chark in a cash game, but if I'm stacking Steelers and I'm going Big Ben and two of his receivers, I always like having something coming back because you don't want the team to take their foot off the gas. So the other team does need to be producing in order to make that happen. I know some people differ with that philosophy, but I always like to kind of make that happen for me in my lineups. And DJ Chark would be the one guy who I would probably use in this matchup.
I was just about to ask you, do we get gross in GPPs and even look at Keelan Cole or Conley at all?
I mean, you could, sure. That's how you set up your lineups is how you set up your lineups. If you want to, take a shot, if you want to take some risk, you can definitely do that. We were talking about the Saints game there, right? Deontay Harris. If Traquan Smith isn't, out of concussion protocol, yeah, you've got Thomas and yeah, you've got Sanders, but who's Jameis Winston been working with the most as far as the current receivers while practicing with the twos? That's Deontay Harris, maybe even Marquez Callaway. So, like, one of those two guys could come up with, you could get that random, like, boom, big play downfield, 50 plus yard touchdown. And if you've got one of those guys in your dirty GPP lineup, well, I mean, that hits, especially if they're, under $3,500, say on DraftKings.
You just blew my freaking mind. I feel like the biggest idiot right now because A, I am, but B, because of course that makes sense. Jameis Winston is working with these second unit guys. I've never, ever, I'm pissed off at myself because of what you just said. I never thought once, and I'm not blowing smoke up your butt. I'm legit, you know me very well. I'm pissed at myself. I never even thought of that aspect when a backup takes over. They've been working with these guys. They have a better rapport with these guys. You just raised a big thing of awareness to me. I just want to let you know.
Well, I'm glad I did. I mean, what is it? When did Winston came in late in the game? Listen, Kamara had 8 targets. Michael Thomas had 7. Deontay Harris, 4 targets. He had, Emmanuel Sanders had 1. Jared Cook had 2. Traquan Smith had got knocked out with the concussion. So, Deontay Harris kind of steps into that range. And his average for catches was 13.5, was 6 yards. So, small, short passing there. They've got their timing down a lot better than, say, Winston with, Thomas. I mean, how many times did he overthrow people in the end zone, in that game the other day on Sunday?
Just incredible. And that is the way you think right there. It's just, I cannot believe I never thought of that. Moving on to the Lions-Panthers game. Another game could have a lot of points to it. 49 total. Panthers favored by 3. A few situations, though, that make me kind of want to wait and see what happens. Again, this is the watch list. This is not the playbook. This is the prelude to the DFS NFL playbook that Howard Bender puts out. This has changed constantly. Remember that. Don't look at it just once. Howard said at the top that he had already updated it. So he's going to do it again and again and again. But in this game, you've got Kenny Golladay back at practice. You've got Matthew Stafford with his thumb issues. You've got Christian McCaffrey, who is going to be out. So now the question is, do we look at Mike Davis with a higher price point, like $7,400, $6,800? There's a lot to take in regarding this game. Give us the roadmap, man.
It's a tough roadmap. Like, this is definitely something that you want to wait on, and you want to wait and see. I've got Stafford and Marvin Jones in the watch list. I actually just added Mike Davis. I know he's priced up a little bit, but if you take a look at Mike Davis's game log, and I can just kind of pull it up right here, right now, because I don't remember the numbers specifically off the top of my head. But if you look at Mike Davis's game log, these last 4 games have been terrible, right? Absolutely terrible. New Orleans, Atlanta, Kansas City, and Tampa Bay. All right. Yeah. If it's not a tough run defense like we've seen with New Orleans, Atlanta's got an underrated tough run D. Tampa's got a very tough run D. And when you're playing Kansas City, you're playing from behind the majority of the time. So you're not even worried about the running game. Look at the games where he did fill in against the Chargers, the Cardinals, He had a good game against Atlanta. Chicago. These are tough, these aren't as tough run defenses as, what he's faced. And he wasn't being pushed out of game flow in those. Like Chicago's a tough run defense, but he was getting the work because why? Because Carolina was in this game. Carolina was even ahead in this game. So, I look at this situation here. Detroit's got a horrible run defense. Carolina is going to want to run the ball with Mike Davis. They are, especially if you're worried about Teddy Bridgewater, because he's got like a sprained MCL.
He does.
And I guess he's going to try to play through it. So what do you want? Do you want Teddy Bridgewater trying to roll out and, avoid the pass rush there? Or do you want to hand the ball off to Mike Davis a little bit more against a really soft run D? So I really like that group there. But yeah, as far as the Lions go, I love DeAndre Swift. I'd love to see if he could actually get the consistent touches if they really have phased out Adrian Peterson. I would love for that to be the case because it's a smash spot for him. The passing attack, I got to wait and see because, Matt Stafford, sorry, it's a partially torn ligament in the thumb. Like I see it like when Wile E. Coyote's holding on to a rope, right? And all of a sudden it starts to like fray until it's like one little teeny tiny thread. And then he's like, and then he falls because it snaps. Like that's kind of how I'm picturing Matt Stafford's thumb with every time he tries to throw the ball. So I'll reserve judgment for that aspect of it.
Yeah, there are a few of these quarterbacks. You mentioned Stafford, you mentioned Bridgewater. Drew Lock, another quarterback that, according to reports, is going to try to play through it. It's just with all that uncertainty, it turns me off to the team. And again, we still have enough days. We still have an eternity before the main slate begins. So everything changes in a day, let alone an hour. Do you expect with this price point for Mike Davis that it will drive down ownership at all, despite the matchup being good?
100%. 100%. I mean, listen, and you said it earlier, recency bias. I mean, that's what we're dealing with right now. People are looking at what Mike Davis's numbers were for the last 4 weeks, and they're like, I'm definitely not going to pay this much money for Mike Davis. Doesn't matter if it's a smash spot. We've seen him fail in smash spot, whatever the case may be. Yeah, I think it will drive ownership down. He's not as tasty a salary saver as he was like last week.
Right. And I can hope to God that he gets as many looks in the passing game as J.D. McKissick, my boy, got so in that matchup. So yeah, don't expect that to happen. But hey, you never know. I mean, look, is he a stranger to getting targeted 5 times in the passing game? No, he's not. We've seen it multiple times. A little bit more would help us with the price inflation compared to last week. I'm still with you, though. The matchup set for itself in GPPs, recency bias, like we've been talking about, people will be staying away. I'm not saying it's technically zagging, but if that's going to be the fear, I'm going to play off of your fear, and I'm going to start this guy and win some money off it.
Love it. I love it.
That's the game plan. Yes. I mean, other matchups, speaking of the Washington football team, when are you going to give McKissick a little bit more love? Don't answer that. The last time I said this to you, the next week, he failed in his matchup. I believe it was against Dallas or something like that. So I just don't know what to expect because you hear about from the reporters out of the DC area how much Gibson struggles in pass pro and all that. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to give him carries. And still with McKissick, you're not going to get a lot of carries for him. You might get your cheap goal line touchdown, maybe, but you're focusing on what he does in the passing game as you are with half of these running backs. What are your expectations for the Washington football team's run game?
I'm looking at Antonio Gibson again. I loved his touches last week. Here's the thing. It's not an exact science, but when you start looking at the matchup and you feel like it's a little bit more of an even matchup that, Washington's not going to get blown out, then, you kind of expect them to use the run a little bit more to kind of, win that time of possession, really try to grind it out. Cincinnati is a team that gives up a lot of rushing yards. Now, obviously, Big Ben took advantage of them last week, but I look at this situation and I say, here's a good time to get Antonio Gibson more work. John and Pemba and I were talking last week about the dartboard, and I was like, Do I put J.D. McKissick in? Do I put Antonio Gibson in? What are our thoughts here and there? We both settled in on Antonio Gibson. The yardage wasn't great. He could have used more touches, but he did get into the end zone twice, which definitely hit. Now McKissick did what? I mean, he had what? How many targets in that game?
So by halftime, I believe it was 15 total touches. I believe the passing game, Howard, 11 times in the first half. 11.
Yeah, and then that's Alex Smith and master of the check down. So I think, listen,
and I was going to say very quickly, me being in the DC area, I know a few of these Washington football team reporters. I've known them for a long time. I play in leagues with them, and I continue to ask them, when is this matchup going to take a dump on me? When is this player going to take a complete dump on me? And they continue to tell me constipation. It's not going to happen. Smith loves him.
Smith loves McKissick, and I think that's just, that's a product of Alex Smith under center right now. So I think against Cincinnati, I think this is another game where both can eat. And, when you've got Terry McLaurin and you've got, Logan Thomas as the two primary pass catchers. I mean, I don't even know. Does Alex Smith know that Steve Sims is even alive?
I don't think so. That is not confirmed right there, because this was a player, and this goes back. You just triggered something for me here, because this is a guy that I spent $1 on in at least 6 leagues. I was convinced that he was that second option. He got hurt. And then since then, you can't tell. Steven Sims, Cam Sims. Which Sims is it?
How about no Sims? How about forget the Sims? Right? I mean, that's it. You're looking at McLaurin, you're looking at Thomas, you're looking at McKissick in the passing game.
Cheap, 3,300 on DraftKings. I'll take that with this stupid tight end position.
Oh, Logan Thomas? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, the tight end position. How do you even track the tight end position? Do what you did. Don't cheat.
Trash. Garbage. It's garbage. Like in season-long leagues and DFS, you're either paying up for Darren Waller or Travis Kelce, or you're looking for who's your best bargain bin tight end, because you just don't want to waste money on it. You really don't. I mean, I was looking at the guy who won. I had a guy on the show the other day. My friend Brian, his buddy Tim, won $100,000 off of a Steelers stack last week. Because we were talking about it. So he came on the show. We started talking about that. But his tight end, I think it was Logan Thomas was his tight end. He was like, it's a throwaway position. If you're not going to involve Travis Kelce, that, I'll look for a guy who sees somewhat regular targets, but doesn't cost me anything. And that turned out to be Logan Thomas. And it could be Logan Thomas again this week.
And I like that, because one of the things that I've been doing, and I've had some success some weeks and struggled other weeks, is that I've been putting that cheap spot, that throwaway spot, I've been putting it as my flex essentially. But now, as we continue to see just how much crap we're dealing with the tight end spot, I don't want to spend much on the position anymore. I just don't. I feel like I've been wrong every single time. And it's one thing when you're willing to pay up, but you're going to be paying up a pretty price point. That I'm not going to do anymore. That's why we just talked about Thomas, and another tight end in the watch list, someone who I thought would come through a week ago who didn't, Austin Hooper on DraftKings, 3,900. What are your expectations for Hooper against the Eagles?
I actually like Hooper's matchup this week a lot. I really do. I think that when you're looking at the Eagles defense, I think that they're very vulnerable across the middle. They rank somewhere in like the neighborhood of 27th or 28th in DVOA against the position. Listen, last week with Cleveland, there's a lot of weather concerns. That wind was just whipping around, and it really had a major negative effect on the passing game. So, when you look at that, and they were like, we'll just run it with Nick Chubb the entire time because we're playing Houston. But, you saw the way the passing game was affected even by looking at what Deshaun Watson was doing. So, when I look at Hooper in another good, strong matchup, as long as the weather is fine and we're not dealing with these 30-mile-an-hour gusts of wind, I think without OBJ in there, I think it's Jarvis Landry and it's Austin Hooper who are the top two targets.
I just think when you mention the wind factor, I just think of the Maury scene. Maury's wigs never come off. Hurricane winds. It makes me think of that every time I think of winds. Love Goodfellas. And also, here's a team that I unfortunately love, but it's been hard to love them. I can't even call them by their real name. It's that other team from New York that hasn't won a game yet, who I call the Plains, but I'll say it for this purposes, the Jets taking on the Chargers. So I have to ask you about that. Let's get a little disgusting if we want to stack some Chargers. I mean, yes, we could talk about Herbert, Keenan Allen, but my question is, going up against this not so good pass defense, any receivers, any randos from the Chargers that you would be interested in for potentially minimal salary?
Well, Fency, I'm down here at SoFi Stadium right now, and we're scouting it because the Jets are coming to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. Listen, are you kidding? Against the Jets? Stack me up Herbert with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Stack me Herbert with Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry. You want to do a dart throw just for shits and giggles? Well, then, hey, Jalen Guyton's there also.
Yes, I was hoping you'd say that.
Listen, I'm not gonna really push the chips all in on a guy like Guyton, especially because I feel like this is that game where, again, everybody's down on Mike Williams. They hate Mike Williams. Keenan Allen's getting all the targets. Mike Williams isn't crap. Blah, blah, blah. Give me some Mike Williams. Give me all the shares of Mike Williams this week. I'll be very, very happy. Like Keenan Allen, lock him down in cash games. The dude is money in the bank, but he's starting to get priced up a little bit more. Mike Williams a little further down. I'm not going to use him in cash, but as a GPP add-on there, I mean, his price tag, I like it. I like it.
Keenan Allen, pretty penny alert, 8,000 on FanDuel, 7,400 on DraftKings. Notice you didn't mention someone, and I want to know if you've received questions about this player yet. Kalen Ballage. Are people trying to play I guarantee you're going to get questions about it if you have.
Of course I get questions about him. This is not a guy who interests me. I mean, I don't even know the status of Justin Jackson, right? But I'm just not going to buy into Kalen Ballage. Fine, Troymaine Pope didn't get a single touch last week, right? Okay. Ballage got the majority of work. I don't know. I mean, I think we're also possibly looking at the return of Austin Eckler. I think
where's the reporting on that? He put out that stupid video on Thursday, and we haven't heard one thing since. I went off like now with Ronis last night on Alarm After Hours because of that. Where's the news regarding this guy? He says the time is coming. I've not seen any reports since that video.
Because beat writers are being told, coaches and PR departments for teams are dictating to the beat writers what to write. And they're feeding a lot of misinformation that the beat writers are just buying into. You got to remember, they don't have access to the clubhouse. They don't have access to the players or the coaches like they used to. They get their opportunity to discuss with it on like a Zoom meeting or something like that. But, they don't have the ability to get in there. And so without being able to sit there and watch what's going on at practice or watch what's happening, well, then coaches are dictating what's being put out into the media. We saw that with San Francisco when we were told that, what was it? Oh, they were, I think it was Jennifer Chan from NBC Sports Bay Area turned around and said that Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers PR department got on all the beat writers to not write about JaMychal Hasty that week where everybody was like, oh, I'm going to go all in on Jerick McKinnon. It's a great matchup, blah, blah. And he touched the ball once in the second half for -1 yards. And JaMychal Hasty was the one who got all the touches. And then she turned around and she was like, they told us not to write about him because they wanted to keep JaMychal Hasty a secret. So the fact that we're not hearing the truth story or the reporting on Austin Eckler, or really for that matter, any of these players, I can't trust what I'm hearing from beat writers right now. That's just, I have to do my own analysis and make my own, not guesses, educated guesses, I guess you could put them as who's going to do what.
You got to be careful with everything that you read. Player notes. We talk about it all the time. Fantasy Alarm After Hours. It doesn't matter. There's a reason we bring it up. One more player I want to talk to you about because, again, big theme of our stream today is recency bias. You have Dalvin Cook in that watch list. Dalvin Cook is very, very expensive. We've gone over a ton of cheap options. 10-5 on FanDuel, 9K on DraftKings. What are your expectations? Because coming off of the 30 carries, even though he went up against the Bears, who bottled him up pretty well for the most part, Dalvin Cook now in a new matchup here, heavy price point, ownership could be driven down a little bit. What are your expectations against Dallas?
Dallas is ranks 28th in DVOA against the run. Dallas defense sucks. Give me all the shares of Dalvin Cook. I will put him in every single one of my lineups. Cash, GPP. The only thing that could be a concern is that he just runs so hard on them that in like the second half, if Dallas's offense isn't producing, then we could see Alex Madison maybe take over in the fourth quarter. Like that's possible. But in order for that to happen, Dalvin Cook's probably already locked in his 100 yards. He's probably already locked in his 2 touchdowns. This was the big debate last year over and over again. Do you put Christian McCaffrey into your lineup or do you not put Christian McCaffrey into your lineup? He's $10,000. He's 10-5. What are you supposed to do? Give me all the shares of Dalvin Cook you could possibly get. I think that he is going to absolutely destroy Dallas, and it's not even going to be pretty.
Wait, what's that? Oh, FA Nation just wanted me. Okay, I got it, guys. FA Nation just wanted me to check in with you because at the top of the stream, you were talking about a stack. Did we end up hitting that stack that you were promoting? The little birds are waiting. We're sitting there. We want to know.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, my baby birds, go check out the watch list. If you don't have the playbook and you can't look at the watch list, well, then I'll tell you what, you should go to fantasyalarm.com/Black Friday. Take advantage of a ridiculous deal, $97, all 12 sports, all DFS, all seasonal content, all draft guides, all cheat sheets from now until January 1st of 2022. So that's over a year's worth of fantasy content from Fantasy Alarm, full access for $97. So you want to see what my my super secret stack is? Well, then you're going to have to go and check it out over at the watch list. I'm going to keep that one a little close to the vest here. Well, for just FA Nation people only, those of you out there who don't subscribe, you probably should.
Probably. Come on, don't undersell. You definitely should, because we're a family that sticks together and we're a family that wins together. You can catch Howard Bender at RotoBuzzGuy on Twitter, also hosting Fantasy Alarm on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Sirius 210 XM87 from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern every single weekday. You can also catch me on Alarm After Hours on that same channel tonight with Adam Ronis from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern. And because it is Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk, for everybody that's as into NBA and that's ready to crush and kick everybody else's ass in NBA, your season starts tonight. Because, hey, we got all the draft coverage that you can handle. We got our guy, Dan Servodidio, college football, college basketball guy. He is our guy. He's on our team. He's our Fran Fraschilla of the operation. He's going to be doing pick-by-pick analysis on the site. Yours truly, hey, you hate seeing my face? Well, too darn bad, because I'm giving you a lot of reaction videos throughout the night at Fantasy Alarm, at Fantasy Sports, as well as we continue to get you ready for the start. That season is going to be here in the blink of an eye. We got cheat sheets coming. We've got videos. We've got a ton of analysis. My NBA team is the best dream team since 1992, and we are here for you. So make sure when that draft starts, you're on fantasyalarm.com for our draft tracker.
Let me give you guys a couple of URLs to bookmark. Well, first of all, at Fensty Sports on Twitter, make sure you're getting in on that, because you're going to see those videos on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you're going to want to get that instant reaction there. FantasyAlarm.com/NBA draft. Simple to remember, right? Just that goes right to Dan Servodidio with the pick-by-pick tracker. Then tomorrow morning, you're going to want to tune into the Ante Up podcast, because Justin Fensterman is going to take my place tonight, because he and Adam Ronis, who are obvious big hoops guys, they're going to give you not just the reactions to round one, but Fensty's also going to tap into anything that went down in round two that you guys might need to know about. So you can follow the Ante Up podcast on Spotify and on iTunes as well. You're not going to want to miss it. We've got NBA coverage smothered and covered all over for you guys. So definitely make sure that you tune in tonight.
As far as we're concerned, the NBA season starts tonight. That's called staying ahead of the game. That's called being smart. That's called kicking the life out of your competition. That's what we do. Again, like I said, a family that sticks together, wins together. For Bender, I'm Fensty. We always dominate. Why? There isn't any other option when you're part of the family. Just win.